So Ario's in Germany, just north of Hamburg, helping his mother, and grandmother move in. Grandmother's moving into an old folks' home, I guess, and Ario and Mom are dealing with the furniture. And I was going to tell you a story about furniture. Yeah, I think I may have told you guys, I really like micro suites, in terms of real estate, right?
Right.
And one of my clients had, it was actually his principal residence, and he turned one of his, he had two living rooms for some reason in this house, and he turned one of those living rooms into a micro suite. And he asked me, Ario, how much it was going to cost to do that. And I said, well, my wife and I have done a number of those conversions. To make a micro suite out of a room in your house, you just have to have a door to the outside. You have to have some furniture, obviously, because most of them are furnished. You put a bathroom in and some kind of a kitchen or wet bar, and there you go. And by the time we finish, my wife and I do these, with everything, the furniture, et cetera, we spend about $40,000 on that, the plumbing and everything else. So I told Ken and Natalie that to expect that. And so they did convert one of their rooms, which was about 300 square feet, which is a good size for a micro suite. They converted it to a micro suite. It's a little independent apartment with its own ingress and egress. And after they finished, they rented it out, I don't know, $1,400 or $1,500 a month, which was pretty good. They get about 18,000 of gross income, probably about $12,000 of net income from it. And they like doing it. And Ken calls me up and I said, well, how much did you spend doing it? Was it something similar to what my wife and I are doing, about 40 grand? He said they spent $16,000 on it.
Wow, 16,000.
So imagine
What
if the three of us owned a house together that we bought, I don't know, for $500,000, and we got, rent of, I don't know, $600,000 a year. That'd be pretty cool. And they built their micro suite for $16,000 and they rented it for $18,000. So it's like it was a terrific ROI, return on investment. And I asked him, how the hell did you do it? Because it costs us quite a bit more. We still make decent money on ours, but nowhere near what they're doing. And he said a couple things. One, he and his youngest son are handymen, so they did most of the work themselves, at least the drywall and demolition, whatever else they could do, painting. They didn't do the plumbing or the electrical, but they did the rest of it themselves. So that was a savings. But then he told me they went, or his wife, Michelle, Natalie, Natalie went to these estate sales, kind of what you're doing in Germany right now. And they bought, Natalie, for $500, she bought an entire house full of furniture. And it was from somebody, a grandmother, right? Somebody of yours. And it was very nice furniture, a little old fashioned, but it was very nice. And the grandchildren just wanted to get rid of the furniture so they could sell the house. So for $500, Natalie got the furniture. My wife would have gone out to IKEA and Wayfair and a bunch of other places and, spent a bunch, probably quite a bit more on furniture and cups and saucers and pots and pans and whatever else you had. Now, they got all their appliances and all of their furniture, everything for $500.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. All right. So you sent me, Ario, you sent me the agenda. Thank you for doing that. And I thought we could start with one of the items which might be a little easier to knock off, which was, what do you do when a contractor is mad at you? And I was going to ask you guys, do you have a contractor that's mad at you?
For us, I don't think so, unless I'm wrong. Armin can correct me on that.
No contractor is managing. It's us.
And so that was an interesting question, though, Ario. Why did you put it on the agenda?
Well, in the future, I thought maybe we want to have someone else manage, but because we're still looking for future projects. Just want to, I guess, learn as much as possible.
Well, it was a great question, and I actually wrote something this morning, which I'm going to send you, but I'll share my screen with you, and I'll tell you. I wrote this morning. It's a couple of pages. I don't know if you can see my screen okay.
Yeah.
So how to deal with contractors who are mad at you? Okay, which was a great question. I don't think anybody's asked me that question. You know, I put over 2,500 people through the coaching practice in 11 years, and no one has asked me that until you did, Ariel. So first of all, I put down, you know, what is it, 6 or 7 reasons why we get into disputes with contractors. And I'm sure, Armin, you know this stuff. But typically, you get into disputes with contractors when they're over budget, when they're late in delivery, when you think that the work is substandard, or there are too many deficiencies. Their billing and invoicing is confusing. Change orders, they're claiming that there were change orders. You don't recall them, and I don't think you ever signed them. Ario, do you know what a change order is?
I think you order, let's say, a certain amount, and then while I guess during the process you just change it to, let's say, half or maybe even more, or change a product.
Armin, how would you define it?
Any changes to the plans or designs?
Yeah. So Ario, virtually every project that you do, there will be change orders. It's inevitable, right?
Mhm.
Because the architects, the engineers, everybody involved, planners, we all make mistakes. And then you get out on the site and you're actually building something, you find out that you have to build it differently than you thought. So when that happens, your contractor, your trader, your subtrade should come back to you two guys as the owners and say, okay, listen, we have to change something here, and it's going to cost an extra $500. Here's the change. Here's the change order. Can you please sign it? But quite often what happens is people just do stuff and then they bill you for it afterwards. And you don't recall, signing that change order. And maybe they did consult you and you've forgotten about it. I mean, it could be quite innocent, but it often happens that that's a big reason why projects are over budget.
Mhm.
Okay. And so your job as owners is to reduce the number of change orders to the absolute minimum, because not only do change orders increase your costs, your budget, but they also delay the project. Quite often there'll be considerable delays. The other thing that you have to remind everybody, in all your contractors, your trades and your sub-trades, is every time there's a change order, they have to mark up the original plans, their shop drawings and their architectural drawings showing the changes. And those are called as-built plans. And you need those. You remember those? You need those at the end of each project so you know exactly what it is that you actually built. All right? So I'll go back to sharing my screen now. All right. So you want to make sure that you review all change orders and you sign them. And then quite often there are gaps in the work performed. I've actually built an office building where when we went to turn on the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system in about 100,000 square foot building, it didn't work. It just didn't work. And the electrician said, well, it's not our fault. It's the mechanical systems people who failed. And the mechanical systems people said, oh, no, it's the electrician's fault. And they just passed the buck back and forth. So, and as an owner, I remember one of the tenants was the Royal Bank of Canada moving in. You can't say to the Royal Bank, well, it's not my fault as the owner. It's my contractors. They don't care. They have a lease. All right. So that often leads to cost overruns and big time disputes because you as the owner are going to hire somebody else to fix it. And you got to pay that for that. All right. And then G here, blaming other trades, contractors, sub-trades, architects, planners, and engineers. In other words, they pass the buck. That's a big issue. All right. So in a way, it doesn't matter because I think we've talked about it before. You guys can remind me, but contractors really have the last word. And Armin, I think we did talk about the power of liens. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So Ariel, that means that if your contractor's in a dispute with you and they lien your project, right? It's like it's like the nuclear bomb, right? I mean, it delays your project. You can't sell the project and you can't refinance the project or put a mortgage in place without first dealing with the lien. So they have the last word. They got you over a barrel. All right. So I put down 7 things that I've actually done. I've done all of them, I'm sure, over the 40 years I've been doing this, to deal with contractors who are not happy. So number 1 on my list would be simply to issue an apology if it's called for. You know, people, it does matter if you say, look, I'm sorry you feel this way. I'm sorry that we're in a dispute. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're acknowledging, you know, responsibility for everything, but you're saying, look, I'm sorry you feel that way. You know, if you have a girlfriend or a wife, that goes a long way too, right? And the second point on my screen here is don't put your head in the sand. You know, I even when I'm in a dispute with somebody, I tend to get back to them by email or text or phone. I don't ignore them. And whoever said no news is good news is an idiot, in my opinion, because no news is usually not good news. You want to be talking to people if you can. The other thing, and this I'm not good at, number 3 on my list is listening. I'm not good at that. I like to talk. But you know, my wife is a very good listener. That's why we're so well matched, I think. But if you do try and listen to the other side instead of getting mad, just listen a little bit. I do try that to force myself to listen. Sometimes there's some issues that really are easy to solve. So listening is important. And then there's some practical stuff on my list here. If there's a payment amount in dispute, you can negotiate a lower price. You can. You know, we're entrepreneurs. If somebody says you owe me $100,000 and you think it's 50, maybe you can negotiate somewhere in between. And you may have to give them extra security. So, you know, clients of mine have a mortgage in place and there's a disputed amount, and they might pay for it over time. You know, if you owed somebody $100,000, you might pay it over time, and you might offer them some security, maybe a second mortgage for $100,000. You know, on a $6 million project, that probably isn't going to bankrupt you. And hopefully you do not issue personal guarantees of that. All right, it's just a corporate guarantee or a mortgage. Okay. And if you can't afford to pay the overage, sometimes there are some other choices that you can, you know, you can make. You can give them equity in your project. Quite often, you know, I've helped my clients resolve matters with their contractors. Hey, listen, you can own 20% of this thing because I just can't pay you. You can give them some additional security on another property you own. Say, look, you can have a mortgage on this my cottage if you want. I'm not saying you should do that, but you could. Or you could give them equity in another project. And if you think there's trust there, if you do trust these people, you might give them some additional work on another project. And I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but this is really important in any negotiation, which is to develop what's called a BAFTA. Armin, you would probably know what a BAFTA is, right?
Yeah, I think that's where you don't have anything to lose or something. I forgot.
Yeah, very close. You can see it. I don't know if you can read. It might be too small. BAFTA stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. BAFTA. It's a very, very fundamental, you know, concept in negotiating. And I never go into any negotiation without a BAFTA. I think about these things before I talk to somebody. I do a lot of this kind of work, dispute resolution for clients of mine, sometimes amongst families, which can be the worst. And I always ask the people I'm representing or working with, what's your BAFTA? And they look at me, they have no idea what I'm talking about. But what is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement? And sometimes your best alternative might be litigation. You know, I've said to people, look, we don't agree here. Maybe what we should do is put the matter in front of a judge or an arbitrator, a binding arbitrator, and let the arbitrator or the judge decide. We can't, you know, there's positions here that are just too far apart. We can't resolve it. So you could do that. And then, you know, sometimes projects, if they're incorporated, you can make a proposal to your creditors if you have to, right? I don't know if you know what that is, but you can actually hire a bankruptcy trustee. And without putting the company into bankruptcy, you can make a formal proposal to your creditors. And if that doesn't work, you can bankrupt the company. And sometimes, Ario, when you're in a negotiation like this and you say, look, we're so far apart, I'm going to make a proposal to creditors on behalf of the corporation, or I'm going to bankrupt this company, and good luck getting paid, right? And sometimes that brings people back to, the table, all right? So those are some pointers that I think could help you, resolve disputes. And you guys are young guys, you will almost certainly have these kind of disputes, maybe not with your contractor, but with a trade or a sub-trade.
Yeah.
Any comments on that, guys?
Sorry, what was the BAFTA again? Was best alternative?
Yeah, can you see it? Ario, can you see it down here at the
Yeah,
bottom?
but I'm just wondering what the FTA at the end is.
Best, I don't know. Maybe I got it wrong. I think best alternative. I think I did get it wrong. It's supposed to be BATNA. Oh my God, that's embarrassing. Okay, I really hate
No
myself now. Thanks for pointing it out.
No worries, no
I
worries.
was going to send you that, but now I'm not. I'm gonna change it right now. Hang on a second. All right. Well, that's terrible. BAFTA is actually an award given to, I think, the British film actors. So BAFTA is definitely the wrong. Yeah, thank you for that. Well, this is really embarrassing. I wrote it early this morning. That's my only excuse.
No worries.
So it's BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. BATNA. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of this. Yeah. No, this is terrible. Best alternative to a negotiated agreement. I think that's right, BATNA. Okay. All right. Well, that is funny. Shoot. Oh my God. So I probably said this to you guys before as well. What's the number one thing in life?
Trust.
Right. It's not love, it's trust. Okay, I'm gonna print this thing for you. I just changed it, Ario. Hang on, I gotta make sure how to do it. Contractors who are mad at you. All right. All right, let me just boot it up again, see if I got it right this time. Yeah, I changed it. Okay, can you see it down at the bottom?
Mhm.
And I think I changed it up here as well. Yeah, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Okay. All right, I'll send that to you guys so you have it. Armin, does Ario come up with this himself, these questions?
No, we put an email in draft, and if he has a question, he types it down, and if I have a question, I'll type it down as
That's
well. I
good.
really don't go over his questions because I want him to ask it. Obviously, if he had a question to me, he would ask me, but yeah, so
All
I don't
right.
usually get involved in that.
Yeah. Yeah, usually it's from both of us, at least the emails.
So, Ario, when I have to make a change like this in the document, you can see what I'm doing now. I have to change the Word document. I have to change the PDF. Then I have all of my handbooks in this Dropbox folder, and I got to put it in there. And then I have a couple of backups. So when I change one word, as I did here, there's probably 4 or 5 other things I got to do.
Yeah, no worries.
So it's your fault that you put me to all that extra work. All right. So Ariel, the next question that you or a related question, and I wrote this as well this morning. I've already done that. And we've talked about this before as well, so I'm not going to spend much time on it, but I just wrote it up again this morning. I wrote up a couple of examples of how liens can be very, very detrimental to a project. And most housing contractors, renovators, probably aren't going to lien a project, but in commercial construction, you're dealing with more sophisticated people usually, and liens are really powerful, right? So I wrote this one up, this example this morning for you, and I'll send you that too. You can read it if you want. These are very short handbooks. The first one I just sent you is 2 pages, all right? This one I think might be 2 or 3. So it's not too long. But I'll tell you this story. So one of my clients, her parents died like within days of each other. They just, I think the dad passed away first, and then mom just didn't want to live anymore. And they weren't that old. I mean, they were probably in their 70s, you know, when they passed. I don't think they were in their 80s. And I think they just died. And anyway, she lived in a town a few hundred kilometers away, and her parents' home was sitting on 10 acres, right next to a huge car dealership and across the street from an RV dealer, lots of commercial land around it. So they had 10 acres, she inherited 10 acres and a really nice matrimonial home on 10 acres, worth quite a bit of money. But she, you know, she's a young woman, and she didn't think about what to do with the house right away. I mean, she was upset, obviously, her parents had passed. So over the winter, she did nothing. She didn't pay any attention to it. She just buried her parents, and then that was it for 6 or 7 months. And over the winter, teenage boys got in there and started a fire. So if you leave a house unsupervised in a rural part of any town, it's very likely that you're going to have issues. If you have a town, say a house in a city area, especially a central city, you can get squatters who will go in there. In a rural area, it's teenage boys who go in there, they party, and they are very reckless. So in the spring, she finally, you know, felt a little better, and she came to Ottawa, and the fire department fortunately was able to put the fire out, and the home had sustained damage, but was not destroyed. It had sustained damage. So she hired a contractor to fix it, and he told her the cost of repair would be about $25,000. Well, he did a little bit of work, and then he billed her for $350,000. He quoted $25,000, but he billed her $350,000. Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, and then that's when she called me, because I knew her parents, and she must have found me somehow, and she got on the phone to me, and she was quite upset. And she said, "What do I do?" And I said, "Well, did he lien the project?" She said, "I don't know." So we hired a real estate attorney. We checked title, and sure enough, there was a $350,000 lien on title. Okay, for $25,000 worth of work. Now that's considered a fraudulent lien, but still, you can't sell it, you can't finance it or refinance it, you can't do anything until you've dealt with the lien. So I said to her, "Well, here's what we'll do. We'll put the property up for sale." And we found a buyer who put in a very good offer. It was in the low millions. And we put a seller condition in there. Do you know what a seller condition is, Ario?
Like, I'm assuming it's the same thing as a buyer's condition.
Yes, exactly.
And the seller.
Where you as a seller have a condition. So we put in her agreement. I don't remember what she sold it for, $3 million or something like that. And we put in the seller condition, which was to give her enough time to deal with, to apply to the court to set the lien aside, because it was a fraudulent lien. We felt we could prove that. So we had a seller condition there, and she had 90 days to apply to the court to see if we could set this aside. And we had a fallback position. I'm sure, Armin, you would understand this, where if you cannot set a lien aside, you can pay the money, the claim, into court, plus I think 25%, and remove the lien. Okay. Yeah. So you can actually pay the money into trust, into the court. The lien is removed. You can make the sale, and then you can take 7 years if you want to dispute the lien. So so what happened was the attorney was successful in removing the lien. It was obviously fraudulent. I'm not even sure if the contractor showed up for the hearing. I don't remember. And she was able to close the deal, and she reluctantly, but she did pay him the contractor $25,000. Okay, so that's kind of a lien story. And I didn't put in this document. It actually was worse than that. The contractor, after he put the lien on, came to her and said, "Look, I will buy the property from you for $350,000." This was a property worth over $3 million. Okay, you following me, Ario?
Oh,
So he said, "Well, you owe me $350, and I'll buy the property for $350. We'll call it quits." He was really trying to steal the property. She was a young woman, and he was trying to steal it from her. But once she had a good coach, that would be me. I said, I don't think we're going to do that. And she said, "Well, what do you think it's worth? Is it worth, $500,000 or $600,000?" I said, "This is 10 acres of commercial land, commercial industrial land surrounded by commercial and industrial uses." And she said, "Well, maybe we should demolish the house." And Armin, what do you think I said when she said maybe we should demolish the house?
you said go ahead, or no, because it's a commercial land, or no?
I can tell you that when I was much younger, I probably would have demolished the house. I probably would have agreed with that. But my experience has taught me otherwise. Let's say you guys buy a piece of commercial industrial land, like 10 acres like this, and it has a house on it. It was quite a nice house, like a 4-bedroom, 2-story house. It was quite nice. But really, you might think it has no value. But let's say you were to build some industrial warehousing on that property, or maybe a shopping plaza or whatever it might be. Having a house on the property, actually, I have found is very valuable. I have done a number of industrial developments since then, and commercial, where I have left the historic houses on the site. I did not tear them down, and where an employee, a foreman, might live. And if you have somebody living on the site and you have an industrial building or a commercial building here, the amount of vandalism and theft you'll have is probably zero. So, but if you tear the house down, as I found out when I was much younger, the city won't allow you to put it back up.
Right.
So, oh no, it's industrial, it's commercials only, no residential. So you're grandfathered with the house. So Ario, if you have a property you buy, and even if the house is an old farmhouse, in my opinion, don't knock it down. You rehabilitate it, and then you will find that it's very useful to have somebody living on this site.
While we're on the subject, I just wanted to ask, who can see liens on a property?
Beg your pardon?
While we're on the subject, I was just wondering which parties are allowed to see a lien on a property?
So any lawyer in Ontario or paralegal can look at the title and see everything that's registered against title. So let's say you have a mortgage on the property, it'll show up. If you have a lien or 2 or 3 liens, it will show up on title, right, in the registry office. If, for example, there's a city work order against your property, that will show up on title. If there are back property taxes not paid, that'll show up on title. So any lawyer or paralegal can see it. Armin, I'm sure you have access to Geo Warehouse, right?
Yeah.
But Geo Warehouse, I don't think shows all of the registrations. It just shows, the title and the MPAC and all that stuff. But I don't think it shows all the registrations.
You can purchase it, I think.
I think you can purchase it. I'm too cheap to purchase it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't show. It's not updated, but once you purchase it, you can see. But yeah, besides that, I don't think you can.
So, Ariel, that was a good question. So one of my clients saw a beautiful lot. It might have even been 2 lots for sale. It was a tax sale. So if you don't pay your property taxes, eventually the city, the town, the township, the county, somebody will tax sale your property. They'll sell it to get the taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was this beautiful lot, and one of my clients wanted to put in an offer. In a tax sale, you put in an offer, it has to be unconditional, and it has to be a cash offer. So he's a home builder, and he said, look, I'm going to put in a bid for this lot, $150,000. I think it was 2 lots, 150,000 for the 2 lots. They were worth back then at least $300,000 each. Today they'd be $600,000 each. So he was going to put in an offer for 150 for the 2 lots, and it would have been worth the 2 of them together 600 grand if he got it. I said, fine, no problem. I'll help you draw up the offer. But you have to ask your lawyer to do a title search and see what's registered against it. Oh, I don't want to pay my lawyer, he says. Now you're asking for a disaster, okay? I said to him, his first name was Tosh. I said, Tosh, we have to do the title search. Why? Well, we don't know what's registered against it. It might be work orders, who knows? So anyway, we did the title search. I kind of insisted on it because I wouldn't draw up an offer on something without doing a title search, okay? See what's registered against it. So in this particular case, there was a $1.1 million judgment registered against the 2 titles by Canada Revenue Agency. And here's the news. Had his $150,000 offer been accepted, he would have owned those properties, and those judgments would now be on property he owned. In other words, he would have to pay the $1.1 million to CRA.
Wow.
Okay. Money he doesn't owe, but it was registered against the property. And if you own the property, it's a registration. There's nothing you can do about it because it's a tax sale, right? They can transfer ownership. And I said to Tosh, we're not putting in, he said, you bet we're not putting in an offer. I mean, he would have, he would have had to, I don't know what he would have done, because he was going to put in an offer in his own name. So he could have gone bankrupt, I suppose.
Wow.
So you have to be careful. So it was a good question, Ario.
Is there any way where I guess a regular citizen can see something against title?
Well, I think
Is that
Armin
illegal?
Armin said that Armin, you have access to Geo Warehouse, right?
Yeah.
And so have you paid for the extra, title search?
I always do. Because when I look at listings, we always do try to get the title search to see what the mortgage amount is that they owe on it. If we want to calculate a VTB deals to see like how much they owe. So yeah, we do that a lot. So Ario, if you ever need to check it out,
Yeah,
just
ask your brother.
but at the same time,
Is-
I think you
yeah.
can go to the city, to the city hall. If you get the report, it's $30, and then you
Yeah.
can just do it there. They have a special computer, and you can just pay them, and they do it for you.
Yeah, I think that's right. And in my case, I actually, Armin, I actually have trouble really understanding those title searches. They come out and there are long lists of stuff, and it's there's some things I don't really sort of understand all that well. So I don't mind paying, like my attorney will do it for $175, Ariel. And which is not too unreasonable. I think $30 is obviously better, but just a printout of the stuff, just a long printout. I struggle reading those things. And there is an art, Ariel, to title searching. There is an art to it. It's not as simple as what I've just described. So I don't mind paying a lawyer. And if you don't want to pay a lawyer, you can get a paralegal or a title searcher. Who will probably charge you less than $175, probably more than the $30 that your brother just mentioned, but probably less than $175. But it's definitely worthwhile doing.
Speaking of tax sales, I don't know if Ario has any more questions, but taxes. Have you been involved in a tax sale as well, like purchasing a tax sale?
I've done many of them.
So what's the process? So because I tried to do a tax sale from the city, but then I went to the city hall, and then they said like the tax sale's canceled. I guess the owner paid up what
Yeah.
they owed.
Yeah.
Is there a way to see if a tax sale gets canceled or not? Or
I have somewhere on my computer. I'm just looking for it now. Something written by a former student of mine on tax sales. His name is Robin Chahal. He's he's a former student of mine and a former coaching client of mine. He's like a genius. Let me see if I can find it. I think I've got it here. All right. So Robin and I have done a number of these things, and I asked him, to write this up for us. So he did.
Mhm.
It's a good thing I can find stuff on my computer. So what is a tax? Can you see my computer? What
Yeah.
is a tax sale? So if you don't pay your property taxes for 10 years, eventually, the city, the county, the township will tax sale your property. It's put up for an auction. So you guys know what an auction is, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the minimum bid legally is the property tax owed on a property. Right now, one of my clients is doing doing one. He owns a property, and the one in front of him, the property in front of his property, burned down, and we're pretty sure it was arson. To claim insurance, and the owner has no one knows where he is. He's gone. He's gone to Alberta. He's gone to Florida. We don't know. Maybe he's in Arizona. We have no idea. All right. So he hasn't paid his property taxes for 7 years, so not 10, but 7 years. And the local township has put it up for tax sale. And the property's a mess. This place burned down, and it's still got all kinds of shit on it. So the minimum bid is the property taxes owed. We did his lawyer did a search title, and there's about $32,000 or $33,000 in property tax arrears. So it's not too bad. And he's going to bid something like 40 grand for 41,000 or something like that, just over and it would add a lot of value to his property. So he's hoping he's going to get it. All kinds of properties come up, including vacant land, houses, old mines, Hostess potato chip factories, and failed condo developments. You probably know this, I'm sure Armin does. You don't actually own land in Canada. You actually are, quote unquote, leasing it from the crown, right? It's called freehold, but it's really a freehold lease from the crown. And those are called a deed. And your rent is your property tax, right? So you really are, in a way, land leasing everything, your house, your office, whatever. If you stop paying rent, you get evicted. Now, in a lot of these tax sales, Armin, you're buying sight unseen. You just, Robin, for example, he buys, he's a wealthy tech guy. He buys properties for almost nothing all over Ontario. He just puts in bids, and he's successful in quite a few of them, and there you go. There's very little information provided on tax sales. The previous owners generally don't talk to you. In this case, the one that I'm working on right now, the owner's gone. I suspect there's probably a criminal investigation, so he's just disappeared. Ario, do you understand buying as is, where is?
Yeah.
You're just, you're buying sight unseen, and you're buying it like if Tasha had actually been successful with that, the city would say, hey, listen, if there's a $1.1 million CRA lien on the property, that's not my fault. You missed that. Too bad. It's HST may apply. You guys know that some properties are with HST in addition, and some are not, right? Commercial properties are HST added. Vacant land may or may not be HST added. It's quite complicated. And existing houses are HST exempt. It's very easy to have your bid disqualified. You got to pay very close attention, Armin, to every detail in the bid requirements. You have to make sure it's in before the deadline. Your forms have to be perfect. It has to be accompanied by a money order or certified check equal to or greater than 20% of your bid. You have 2 weeks to pay the full amount in cash, or you lose your deposit. And it takes a long time to get your deposit back if you don't win. So you give the Ontario government or municipal government, whoever it is, a deposit, and then it takes forever to get it back.
Mhm.
They give it back to you, but it takes a while. here's one, I think this is one that Robin actually put in. This was all the information he got. He got the roll number, he got the legal description, he got the PIN number, he got the address, he got the property taxes owed, in this case, just $5,000, a little bit more. And there is a website, I'll put this in the chat box for you guys. There is a website if you want to see if you want to see tax sales. Where is it?
Ario and I did well, we looked at a few of them. Yeah, the only disappointment was the one time I went to the city hall and they said it's canceled. The owner paid. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I'm going to comment on that in a minute. So I put in the chat box, guys, if you don't mind copying it out of the chat box, the Ontario government site. You should have a look at it. It's a good exercise, and you guys might find something you just say, "What the hell?" You know, I mean, for $5,129.48, you put in a little higher bid than that. Might be $5,500 or $7,500, but you know, you might, you know, I mean, you might try one just to see if you can get it. Here's one that Robin did. He bought a property on Devil Lake Road. It was almost 10 acres. His bid price was $6,405. You notice it's always an odd number. It's not $6,400, it's $6,405. The reason you add the extra $5 is if somebody else bid $6,400, you're $5 higher. The sale price was $14,000. And his return on investment on the property, he resold it. He made a 54% return in 1 year.
Wow. So he just puts them, he wholetails them, I guess. He buys them and then just
he buys them, and then some of them he has held on to. He has some beautiful properties. You know, he has one on Mackinac Lake that is unbelievably beautiful, and he held on to it. It's his party place. But you know, yeah, he flips a lot of them. So here's a note from Robin. Over the past year, I've been experimenting with tax sales. This was written in 2020, so a few years ago. I bought 3 pieces of vacant land now, and he sold one of them, so he held on to 2. The ROI on the first piece was 54%. If I could do it over again, knowing what I know now, the ROI would have been 200%. So far, these tax sales seem like a really good investment. That said, I only have 1 deal under my belt from beginning to end, and I need to do a few more before the concept is proven. All right. I wonder if I have any pictures of it. This is all the details. So I don't mind sharing this with you guys, but like a lot of the information that that we share, it would be private, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Of
Now,
course.
here's one that he bought that I really like, and I'll show you. It's on YouTube, and I'll show you the footage, and just to give you an idea of what's possible here. So this is, I think, over 30 acres that he bought, and he didn't pay very much for it. I'll look on it in a minute, but this is, I think, this might be Mackinac Lake.
Wow.
Or maybe, no, this is Sunday Lake. It's 36 acres. Yeah, you can see it here. And you can see a picture of Robin too. I'm going to give him a thumbs up. And I don't think he paid very much for this.
Wow.
And this is his party place. He's got camping sites here. He's probably, by now, he's got a few yurts on it, or bunkies or domes. And he does a festival every year for his friends. I've only been once because they're all young, you know, they're all in their 30s, and I'm twice as old as everybody, but I went once just for the hell of it. That's why I think I'm still in my 30s, Armin. Hang out with the young people, you know, I mean, they're full of beans.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you get the drift, right? You can see, I'm not going to show you the whole video, but let's see what he paid for it. 35,500. Its MPAC assessment back then was $395. So he probably paid about 1/10 of the MPAC price for it.
Is there like an interest rate involved in the property tax sale? I think a lot of the people in the US, they invest and then they earn like above market rate interest on their deposits or something if it doesn't come
Yeah,
back.
For the
I,
tax liens, yeah.
I don't actually know. I would suspect that in Ontario, they wouldn't give you any interest on your deposit.
Mm.
In the US, I think it was per state. Like every state has like a specific interest rate they would apply. I
Yeah,
don't know if we can do the same in Ontario because they like pay it off, and then it just collects over time, and then you can maybe get the deed or something. But I don't think we do that here.
Mm.
Correct me if I'm wrong, of course.
I suspect you're right. All right.
So do they get canceled because of I guess the owner paying up the debt or
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
I'll talk about that in a second. All right, I'm gonna send you this information, but on tax sales, Armin, and Ario as well. But again, if you don't mind, um, you know, please keep it confidential, okay?
100%?
All
Yeah.
right, so you'll have it. Robin, as I said, is a former student of mine and a coaching client of mine and a friend now. And uh, you know, so that's he wrote that up as a favor to me.
Mhm. Okay.
And he doesn't mind me sharing it, but he doesn't want it, you know.
Public. Yeah. Yeah.
So what was that question you just asked a moment ago?
Them settling that. So
Right,
why do the
right.
get canceled? I guess.
Similar to power of sale, tax sales, right up until about an hour before closing, the original owner can show up and cure the deficiency and reclaim the property.
Mhm.
I bought, there were, I think, 8 lots in the village of Dunrobin. You know, I've done lots of work in Dunrobin, right? I built Blue Heron Storage. I built a little shopping plaza up there, about 10,000 square feet. I built a subdivision called Dunrobin Lake, Dunrobin Springs, Trails of Dunrobin, Casey Creek. I mean, I don't know how many different developments I did up there. Probably some others that I can't remember. Oh, Kennedy Meadows. So, you know, I'm the biggest developer in that area by far. And then there were 8 lots, vacant lots available in the village. And there was a power sale. It wasn't a tax sale, power sale. And one of my mortgage brokers who knows that I'm very involved in that area said, "Hey, Bruce, did you know there's a power of sale going on in the village?" I did not know. And the way I find out, Armin, you may have other sources, but I find out either through lawyers, accountants, or bankruptcy trustees or mortgage brokers. Those are the 4 groups that refer these things into me, and occasionally a realtor. So I put in a bid I went to the lender and I put in an offer, which was accepted. And then the original owner, it wasn't an hour before, but probably a couple days before it was supposed to close, he came in and he cured the deficiency and he got the lots back.
Wow.
So I was a little disappointed. So what I did was I reached out to the original owner and I said, "Well, you got, and these lots, I would have got them for, the bid was, I think, $35,500. So I think there were 8 of them. I offered $35,500 a lot times 8, so $250,000 or whatever, something like that. And I went to him and said, "Well, what are you going to do with the lots?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "Well, sell them to me." So he sold them to me for an extra 50 grand. So
Mhm.
I gave him 300,000. I was unsuccessful with the power set, but I gave him 300,000 in cash, and he was happy with that. And we had 8 more lots to develop, and we put duplexes on each one. And they were very successful. They're still in my rental portfolio, right? So we've on those 8 lots, we have 2-story homes with a basement apartment. Each of the basement apartments has its own access, right? So we have 2 tenancies. We got 16 units in the rural area of Ottawa. And I don't think we've had a vacancy in 15 years.
Mhm.
A lot of people think that there are no tenants in rural areas. That is not accurate.
Wow.
Almost every rural area in Canada, the United States, you go down every rural road in Wisconsin and in North Dakota, in Ontario, in Minnesota, you go down any rural road, you'll see, mom and pop live in front, and then there's some kind of a factory in the back. They're making kitchen cabinets in the back or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And they have people who work in those shops, usually young people and sometimes older people, who make a decent living, but not enough money to buy a house. They rent. And so, rental accommodation in rural areas, I found to be actually pretty good. The rents are decent. Usually the tenants are decent because it's a small community. They don't want to, make a mess. They don't want their reputations to be ruined in a small community. They pay their rent. And they might be a little messy.
Mhm.
Right? They usually have a few beater cars, that they have around, and they have some, motorcycles and ATVs and snowmobiles, and they drink beer, so you got to put up with a little bit of trailer park boys kind of stuff,
Mhm.
the trailer park boys. But they're good tenants. They pay their rent, and like I said, a bit messy. Yes, tax sales can be cured, I think, right up until about an hour before closing, and same thing with power sale.
So how did you mentioned bankruptcy trustees, I believe you mentioned. How do you reach out to them, and where did you find that deal? Was it a tax sale or was that a bankruptcy
So
trustee
that
sale?
was a power sale.
Okay.
And so what that means is that the mortgage holder had exercised their rights under their loan agreement to put those properties up for sale, which means that they have to be on MLS.
Okay.
I wasn't looking on MLS at the time, and it was the mortgage broker who called me. He's my mortgage broker, who I think actually was the original. He arranged the loan for the original owner, and it was that individual who called me to tell me they were for sale. And then I went on MLS and I saw it.
Oh, so it was on MLS. Okay.
Well,
Got it.
under power sale law in Ontario, let's say you loaned me some money for a project, and then I didn't pay Baynard back. You could exercise your rights as a lender. You could power sell it, but you are required to put it on MLS to expose it to the public.
Mhm.
All right. So under power sale, it will be on MLS. But and you probably can search MLS for power sales. I'm sure there's a filter there for that. But I wasn't looking for it, and if this mortgage broker that I know well hadn't called me, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah. Okay.
But I know a number of bankruptcy trustees. I know a number of mortgage brokers. I know lots of realtors. I know quite a few lenders, bankers, accountants, and they'll often call me or text me or email me. Not, I'm a little bit older now, so I'm not really expanding my portfolio. In fact, I might contract it a little bit, because it's a little bit too much for me to manage. And my wife and I would like to do some more traveling and stuff like that. And I work a lot of hours, so we might actually be contracting not reducing our portfolio to zero, but making it a little bit smaller. When you have 30 or 40 or 50 tenants, there's quite a bit of work involved, commercial and residential. I don't know how many tenants we have, but quite a few now. I mean, for somebody my age, so we might reduce that number. But you are young guys, and if you you will develop your network, and you tell people you're interested in tax sales, you're interested in power sale, foreclosure, people will let you know.
Mhm. Okay. All right.
That was
So
a
the
long piece. I didn't think we were going. I thought that was going to be the easy part, Ario. All right. Then you asked me, Ario, and I guess Armin, you too, about I mean, you asked me a number of things. How to evaluate commercial properties. I think that was one of the things you asked me in your discussion or your agenda, how do you evaluate commercial properties? I thought, I don't know if I've shown you this. I don't think I have, but if I have, you're going to have to remind me. I thought I'd show you one commercial opportunity that I thought was kind of interesting. And I don't know if I ever showed you this one. This is the plaza, and this is actually the plaza that I built in Dunrobin. Ever show
Is
you?
that the volleyball one with the
This
sand?
is the
or-
volleyball story, but
Okay.
it's not actually about this plaza, it's about the land next door. I don't know if I ever showed you the land next door to it.
Maybe, I don't know.
Never the one next door. Yeah, the only one we know is the pizza store.
Yeah,
The
yeah, that one
volleyball.
you remember. Okay, so I'll jump ahead to this one. All right. So I built that plaza, in the 80s, so a long time ago now. And
Yeah.
it was a very successful plaza, and then it got blown down by the tornado in 2018.
Mhm.
But one of my clients, a doctor actually, was interested. He likes plaza. He loves real estate. He's a dentist.
Okay.
And he's an individual who came from China, did not speak any English, he emigrated from China to Canada, taught himself English in like 7 or 8 months. It was incredible. And his English is flawless. And then he asked people, what profession in Canada makes the most money? And do you know what the answer is?
Real
Like-
estate investors?
What's that?
Real estate investors?
And what profession other than real estate?
Like salary wise?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I thought it's the public service, isn't it? Like 280 grand or something for the police or fire
No.
or something. No?
By a long shot, it's dentists.
Dentist? Wow.
Yep. Most dentists make between $400,000 and $600,000 a year.
Jesus.
Some of them make, some of them make even more. They do very well. So his first name is John. John asked, and he said, "Okay, I'm going to be a dentist." Like he comes to Canada, he doesn't speak English, teaches himself English in a few months, and then says, "Well, okay, I like that idea." So he became a dentist, and he came to see me a few years later. By this time, after just a few years, he was in his 40s. He owned 3 dental practices that was making $1 million a year. I mean, he's a very talented guy, very smart, but he loves real estate. So my team, he wanted to buy townhouses in Toronto, Ottawa, and Vancouver. So my team helped him buy 307 townhouses in those 3 cities. He ended up with over 300 townhouses. He just bought. He was buying like 8 or 10 a month. It was crazy. It was fun though. I mean, so he built a nice portfolio, but he wanted to do a little bit of commercial because, like everybody else, he got tired of the damn Residential Tenancy Act. I think the one in BC might even be worse. So anyway, he wanted to build some plazas, and I said, "Hey, listen, there's some commercial land right next to the plaza I built that's available." So this was kind of the sketch that he did. So again, it would be more typical plaza stuff: restaurants, physio, dentist, obviously, lawyer, grocery store. You can see groceries not even spelled right. I mean, English is his second language.
Grocery.
So anyway, so here's the first plaza that I built all those years ago, and there was about 4.5 acres here of commercial land. Okay.
Wow.
And this is Dunrobin Road, and this is Porcupine Trail. I put all these roads in and services in for the village. So this is Dunrobin Village. So this is residential over here, and there's a park over here. I don't know if you can see it on this. It's kind of blurry, but there's a park here that I actually built, and then there's a bunch of roads and homes that we did the services and the housing. And here's the plaza. So there's 4.5 acres. It was already zoned appropriately. And you'll see a few more pictures here on the next slide. So there's the park. And here, this is not to scale, okay? So this was just something I sketched out a long time ago now. And I said to the doctor, I said, John, if you buy, this is Porcupine Trail here, and this is Dunrobin Road here. I said, if you buy this piece of property, It's 4.5 acres approximately. Oh, you can see it on the screen. There's 4.8 acres. It has frontage on the commercial frontage is on the Dunrobin Road. The residential frontage is on Porcupine Trail. I said the first thing that we'll do is we'll apply for a severance. So every time you, at least in my experience, every time you draw a line on a piece of paper, every time you sever a property, I think you create more value. You have two different titles, and Armin, you would know, you have to have them in slightly different names, right?
Yeah.
So if this was you and your brother, you might have one in Armin's name and one in Ario's name, or you'd have one in a numbered company and the other property in a different company. That's so Ario, that's so the titles don't merge, because once you have severed it, you don't want to have them merge back again under the Planning Act, and then you have to sever them again. You don't want to do it twice.
Right.
But here's why we did that. In terms of analyzing commercial properties, you really have to know what you're doing. I said to John, if we sever it, because I did the original zoning of this, I said the zoning is commercial zoning with accessory residential. Remember how I said about half an hour ago, I like having industrial or commercial property that has a residential component.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, so this is perfectly set up for a retail plaza with a rental home facing what is essentially a residential street. But think about this, if we sever the property, instead of having a commercial plaza and one accessory residential building, we have a commercial development up front here on Dunrobin Road with two. So we double the yield from the residential point of view. You guys see that?
Yeah.
All right. So here's what we did. We went to the Committee of Adjustment, and we said quite honestly that the reason the doctor wants to sever the property is so that he can do the project in phases and he can finance it separately. And that is completely honest. But the other reason we wanted to do it was because it doubled his residential yield. In other words, he'll get two rental properties, one here and one here.
Yeah.
And the city staff, they did not really understand what was going on. They ignored the accessory residential, and they approved it. The city staff did, and the Committee of Adjustment approved it. And he ended up with two pieces of property and the potential to have two little plazas and two rental properties.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Let's see what else we got here. That's enough of that.
Is that land still available, or?
So what happened was we did the severance. This is some years ago now. And then the doctor turned 60. And he said, I don't really know anything about commercial development. I'm not going to do it. So we have the two properties. They're still there. And you remember, I think, guys, that the plaza that I built that blew over was rebuilt with insurance money, but never completed. So it's sitting there boarded up. And these two pieces of property right next to it are still there. And I think somebody could buy it. I'm not saying you should buy it, but if I were younger, I would buy it. I would do it.
So all three pieces are for sale, or is it just the two pieces and the boarded up one that's possibly for sale?
That's a really good question. Let's hang on a second. Let's go to Google. And we'll see what it looks like today. Maybe they've gone by there. All right. Okay. So here is here's Dunrobin, right? So you know where it is, right? So this is, I'm just going out here. So this is Canada, right? This is the Canadian Tire Center. This is Nepean in here. This is Barbecue Haven down here. There's the city there. So from Dunrobin to Canada is about 13 minutes. To downtown Ottawa, it's about 35 minutes. To the Canadian Tire, it's probably about 15 or 20 minutes. And in Dunrobin, what I did, I don't know if it'll show up here. Yeah, I built Blue Heron Storage, which is now Lock Storage. I built the plaza, which is right here. I built I built all of the homes in the trails of Dunrobin here. There's Porcupine Trail. I built quite a few homes in Casey Creek. I did Dunrobin Lake and Dunrobin Springs, which is here. So, and there is a high school here. There's the West Carleton High School. I've always liked Dunrobin Village. I always have. And
Yeah.
Here is the picture of the village now. These are the two rental homes that the first two rental homes that I built, one on the corner of Porcupine Trail, one just inside. And this is where the volleyball court was. And let's see if they've got a recent picture of this on Google Maps. Yeah, you can see it's boarded up, right?
Yeah.
And one of my clients, this has been boarded up for at least 2 years, if not 3 years. One of my clients wanted to buy it because that plaza was very successful. It's only 10,000 square feet. But by golly, the realtor here, Bill Edelson and Joel Edison, I had two clients who wanted to lease space in here. The one was a restaurant, and I forgot what the other one was. And it took, between Bill and Joel, it took them 1 year to get back to me.
Wow.
I've never seen anything like it. Realtors are usually pretty good about getting back the same day or the next day. It took Joel and Bill a year to get back to me. And I think that's because their client is maybe not easy to reach. But they've had it for lease for a few years. My clients, one restaurant, one whatever, I think the other was a chiropractor. They just gave up. They went elsewhere. I mean, nobody's going to wait around a year for an answer in this business. So that, and then another client of mine put in an offer on the damn thing for $1 million. You know, I boarded up a plaza. I don't know what it's worth, but anyway, it was just over $1 million, and never got an answer. So I mean, I have no idea. But anyway, the other land that we're talking about is over here. So I'm just going up the road a little bit, and we're going to look back. Now I'll go up a little further. Sorry, guys. So this is the plaza here, and the 4.5 acres that I'm talking about is right, or 4.8 acres is right here. And I really like it. We'll just do the isometric view. So you would build, I would do it in phases. I would build a plaza here, a small one here, and I'd build a rental property here. And then if that's successful, I would build another plaza here and a rental property here.
So is the doctor selling it, or is he just sitting on it right now and not doing
Right now
anything?
he's got a lot of money, so it's not for sale. But I mean, I know John really well. I mean, if somebody was interested in putting in an offer, I'm sure he'd listen.
Do you know how much he's like expecting to sell it for, or?
I could find out.
Okay. Would be
I won't mention your name, but I will. I'll reach out to John. All right.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, just because, and I'll tell you what I would do. I wouldn't actually build a plaza. I wouldn't. There's lots of plazas. What I would probably do, and I have to caution you guys, the residential part of this is called accessory residential, which means that you can't build the rental home first and then the plaza. You have to build them either at the same time, or the plaza first and the accessory residential second, right? Because otherwise, I think if John's more comfortable with residential, because if the accessory residential could have been built first, he would have probably built it.
Yeah.
Right. But he's not a developer, and he got scared. He said no. So let me show you what the plans are. Let's see if I can find it here. I don't know. I'll show you the ones we built. We built 8 of these in Dunrobin. And let's see if I can find the design. I think this might be it. So this is one of the ones we built. All right, I got it. So this is what John was going to build as accessory residential, and we built, I think, 8 of these on those lots that I mentioned, right? So it looks like a pretty ordinary 2-story building. It's kind of high ranch style. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps up to the ground floor, double car garage. And so that you can see, and this, you can see it's a stamp drawing here. So I'll just go to the ground floor unit. Yes. So here's the ground floor unit, gentlemen. It's very conventional, but there's some really cool stuff to it. So pay attention, okay? You
Okay.
walk up the stairs here, there's your porch. You go in here, there's your living room, your dining room, your kitchen. You got a little balcony back here, got a mud room. There's the garage. And you notice that there's steps down to the garage because the garage is at the same, is at grade level. So it's 5 or 6 steps up and 5 or 6 steps down. So double garage, come in here. There's the mud room. You got a washer and dryer, I think, there. You got a little powder room here. Then a decent kitchen, dining room, balcony, living room. Pretty conventional. And then you go upstairs and you've got a master bedroom with a walk-in closet and an ensuite. You got bedroom 2 and bedroom 3 and a sort of a second bathroom up there. So very conventional 2-story, 3-bedroom home with a 2-car garage. But this is quite clever. This is the lower unit. And we were building these before the province of Ontario changed the building code, changed the Planning Act to allow 3 residences on R1. So back then we had to, when we were doing these basement apartments, we had to call them, you know, we weren't allowed to put a kitchen down there. We would call it a wet bar, right?
Yeah.
But here's the cool thing. So you come down from the main level here, and you can see that we call the second bedroom a media room, the main bedroom an office. We had a bathroom here, we had a recreation area here, and a wet bar here. Okay, stacked washer and dryer, etc. And you can see the utility room as well. And so that's how we had to label it in order to get our building permits. Today, you could just have a 2-bedroom apartment down there, no problem, right? But back then, we couldn't do that. But this is the neat thing about this building that I wanted to show you. If you, sorry, you notice how the garage here has a person door here at grade, okay? So the main floor is accessed through this door, and there's a person door here. It looks like the person door goes into the garage, but it doesn't. What happens is the person door is here. So there's a door, sorry, that person door I showed you actually does go into the garage. I'm being stupid. But there was a door that's at 90 degrees to that, which comes in here at this level, and it's only a half a level down. Do you understand that, guys?
Mm-hmm.
You guys are smart. It took me a while to figure this out. So here's how it works. You go half a level down, you're in this what was effectively a 2-bedroom apartment, but it's only half a level down, so it's got big windows. It doesn't really feel like a basement. And you come up, it's half a level up, and then there's a door at the top of these stairs. So if you lock that door, the lower level apartment is in fact completely separate. If it's like an extended family member, if you have, you know, your grandmother living with you, she can be in the lower level and she can have some privacy, but she can also come up to the upper level and just walk through this connecting door. So it has tremendous flexibility over time. And this was we have 8 of these, I think, in Dunrobin that my wife and I own, and they've been a great success for probably 15 years.
Cool.
So I guess coming back to our question, how do you like see something and try to, I guess, animate it as you know, as you say, to the best possible, highest and best use?
So what is the question exactly?
I guess I was saying more when you see a piece of land or a building, rural or in the city, how do you determine if you can animate it anymore or not? Like if there's like, let's say, space, or if there's a zoning you can change, as you say, a dry line. How do you value it? I guess how you can create money, or not money, but value. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, money and value are connected, right? Um, so I'm going to turn that back to Armin. Armin, we've been doing this for a while now. When you look at things now and you're trying to assess highest and best use, do you look at things differently now than you would have, say, a few months ago before we started coaching together?
Yeah, yeah, especially now with the new bill with the government of Ontario. But it's also part of my job, I guess, to know the highest and best use.
It is. So, Ario, I think your brother understands the concept very well. I've been trying to teach you guys that. We've been recording a lot of these sessions. And, it's a combination of things. It's a combination of knowing zoning bylaws, knowing the building code, and also being a bit creative, right? So you think about these buildings that we built at least 15 years ago. Maybe it's even longer than that. Maybe it's 18 years. So we were able to get our building permit and create safe structures, but we had to be creative to do it, right? So it isn't just going to a city or a town or a county or a township and asking planners. Ario, one of the things I did for a period of about 2 years is every time I met with a planner in Ontario or elsewhere where I do work, I asked him or her, what do you think is the highest and best use for this property? I did, just as an experiment. I asked them. And after a couple of years of doing that, it was actually quite funny. Not a single planner that I talked to, and I talked to a planner at least once a week, or at least once every 2 weeks. Not one planner in that 2 or 2.5 year period had any ideas about highest and best use, which I find incredible, because the highest and best use concept goes back a few hundred years, and it is the most fundamental principle in terms of land development in any part of the world that follows the British system, which is pretty much everywhere now. I've got clients in Beijing and in Shanghai, and they certainly wouldn't acknowledge that they're following a British system. They definitely wouldn't do that. They're very proud Chinese people, but they do. I mean, they certainly understand the highest and best use concept, and they apply it religiously. But you're not even supposed to say religiously. It's a communist country, right? There's no religion there, but which is not true either. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. So you have to learn these lessons, and you have to ask yourself what you think the highest and best use is, not what the planners think, and not even what the zoning code says. You do have to give regard to the zoning code. Let me show you. I don't think I've shown you the bunkie that my wife has put in our backyard. Ever show you that?
No.
I'll show you what we just put, Aaron, just so you know what we just put in our backyard. All right, and I think you guys will like this. We're almost finished it. Let's see if I can find the pictures. Yeah, here it is. So this is a little bunkie that this is our backyard. This is obviously a nighttime shot. And by the way, again, this is not for publication. So this is a little bunkie that my wife bought for $9,999, literally $9,999 from North Country Sheds in Smith Falls. She just liked it and she bought it. They bring it on a low rider flatbed, and they tilt bed, and they deposit it on this gravel bed. You can see that there's a gravel bed underneath it. And it's got, it's got runners here, wood runners here, and you literally, Armin and Ario, you put it on a gravel bed. You don't put it on concrete. You don't put it on patio stones. The reason for that is that patio stones and concrete sweat, and so it'll cause rot. With gravel, the water will run away. And I have a number of these sheds that have lasted over 40 years. So I'm pretty sure this will last at least 40 years, if not longer. So anyway, they drop this thing, and Ario, it's just a shell, okay? And this is now the inside of the bunkie. So there's the bed that my wife put inside the bunkie. There's the little kitchen that she created inside the bunkie. This is, you can't see it yet, but this is the shower, and there's a toilet there, and there's a sink there. This is, you get a little bit of a different view. We've got a cathedral ceiling in it, so it seems a little bigger. It's got a reverse cycle heat pump, so you get heat in the winter and air conditioning in the summer. Got a little desk here with a swivel chair for work. It's got a game on there. There's some additional drawers. There's the game that you put in there. We've got Google Mesh in there, so you can watch TV and do some work on the internet. Got a little mini fridge there. There's a microwave. There's that little kitchen again. There's the TV. That's the swivel chair in the work area. This is one of the guys. He's been working for me. His name's Mike. He's been working for me for 25 years. There's another guy who's been working for me for 25 years, Pat. It's got these lights that turn on. You just touch them. You don't even have to turn a switch. You touch them, and they turn off. And now we're going back in time. You'll see as we're going back in time here. There's the electrical panel. There's some of the controls that we have in there. There's the cupboard. You can see it opens up. It's just a, I don't know, what do you call that? There's some more pictures as we go back in time. There's a wine rack in there. And you can see this is, like I said, we're going back in time as they're putting it together. It's got everything in there, pots and pans, everything you'd need to run this thing. I guess that's a little hot plate. This is us putting down the bathroom floor, which is tile. This is the shower, obviously, now also tiled. Want to go back a little further if I can. Just give me another minute. Sorry, guys, I want to go back a little further. See if I can find the flooring. I want to see. We spray painted the windows just in the bathroom, give it a little more privacy. And there's the backyard bunkie. It's small. It's only 160 square feet. That's just a methodology of putting in tile so it's horizontal. And I can't see the flooring here. I think we're getting there. You can see the pad here a little bit better. Now, so this thing, as you know, guys, the maximum size backyard shed you can have now under the Ontario Building Code is 15 square meters, 161.5 square feet. This thing is 160 square feet area, so just under that. The only permits that we pulled for this was we pulled electrical safety authority. So we got our electrical inspected, and we pulled a plumbing permit, but there's no building permit for this because it's under the maximum size. So the reason I show you that, and the reason we did it is, I have children and grandchildren, and when the children and their grandchildren come, I have 3 daughters and 2 sons. My 3 daughters are married, and their husbands all snore. So when the husbands visit us, we're going to put them in the bunkie, the backyard bunkie with the boys. They'll hang out there, and then my daughters and the girls will be in the main house. Okay, but if I as I get older, if I needed the extra income, I could rent that thing out. I'm going to ask you, Armin, what do you think I could rent a 1,600 a 160 square foot backyard bunkie for?
Depends on the location, but I guess 1,500, 1,200, 1,500.
That's exactly what I said to my wife. I said, if I pass away and she needs extra money, you could rent that thing out. And what do you think I could get on Airbnb for it?
Probably 2 grand.
Probably actually, yeah, probably $115 a night. So we have no intention of renting it out. I mean, it's just for our kids and our grandkids. But if we needed extra money when we're old, like really old, it's there. And I said to my wife, just mostly men predeceased their wives. And I said, if you ever need any money, you got $1,500 a month or $1,200 a month. Those are the exact numbers I used, Armin.
Mhm.
The reason I show you that, Ario, is you got to know the building code. Now, if I went to the city of Ottawa and said, I'd like to put a backyard bunkie in and convert it into a micro suite, what do you think the planner would say, Ario?
He
Get
would
at
have
it.
a fun time probably.
He would pull out his zoning book, which would be about 1,000 pages. And he would look through the zoning book and he'd say, well, you have to do 100 different studies. And wait a second, I wrote the coach house bylaw. And, I did the first draft of it with the city, and they hired me as their consultant and coach. And I helped them with that. And I think the minimum size backyard coach house is 400 square feet, right? So this would fail that test. So I think if I went to the city of Ottawa and I asked for permission to put a backyard bunkie in my backyard, they would say no. I mean, they'd go through their zoning book and say, look, Farso, you wrote this damn thing. It's 400 square feet. What are you talking about? This is only 160 square feet.
Oh.
So I didn't ask. I did apply for the plumbing permit, which I got, and I did apply for the electrical safety authority, which I got. And you got to remember, the bunkie itself is CSA approved, right? So it's a Part 9 thing. So I don't need any building permit for it because it comes assembled, right? And they just drop it on site. So I think if I ever get into trouble with the city, hopefully I won't. But if I ever got into trouble with the city, I would litigate that thing for 7 years until they got tired and went away. Okay. So when you think about what we talked about on Dr. Lee's property, on John's property in Dunrobin, right? And you think about the backyard bunkie, that'll be there the backyard bunkie be there for 40 years. Now let's go back to the Dunrobin property. So I'm going to turn it back to you, Armin. What do you think the highest and best use is? How would you do the development now that you've heard me talk about it for over half an hour?
I don't know what the process was, but right now with Bill 23, I think you could do 3 units. Maybe you could turn the garage into another unit, maybe.
That's cool.
Same with the other one, because there's 2 houses, and then the commercial side could have, will be 2 commercial portions, 2 commercial plazas.
That is really cool.
Maybe you could do a food truck if it doesn't violate any agreements with any current.
That is a great idea.
Maybe storage.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should hire him, Ariel.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, let's work on that for a couple more minutes. That is really cool.
But only, I think, if we don't have a restaurant, I think it will work. But if we have a restaurant there, I don't think they'll like a food truck there.
Oh yeah, probably. But I wonder if, oh, that is such a great idea. Holy smokes. I'm going to put that in here. Hang on. Let's go back here. That was very clever, Armin. I really like that. All right, so let's go back here and work on this. So what we could do is we could do a food truck and playland as our phase 1 commercial use, which is super cheap and super fast to do, right?
Mhm.
then build accessory residential with 3 units now instead of 2, right?
Yep.
That is really fantastic. That is great. Oops, hang on, I gotta save that. So I have this concept called Food Truck City. See if I can find it for you. Which, yeah, here it is. Oh, look at that. It goes back almost 10 years. Food Truck City. So what are you laughing about?
Is it a whole bunch of food trucks?
A whole bunch of food trucks. Yeah. Oh, look at that. I
It's
even thought about putting it in Dunrobin. Christ almighty. So you just reinvented for me the original idea. So what the Food Truck City is, you would start with like one food truck and a bunch of games. I don't know what the games would be. This is like horseshoes. There's a play area, another play area, beach volleyball. You probably put in pickleball today. Badminton doesn't come with the girl. Outdoor ping pong. So 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 I think that is a great idea because if we could pry loose the I'm gonna write down Food Truck City here. Hang on a second. If you think about it, if we could pry loose the land from Dr. Lee, which we might be able to do, you could just put a gravel pad in. You put in a beach volleyball court and a pickleball court and a play area and a food truck. There's your commercial development, and then you build your accessory residential on Porcupine Trail.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
You could also probably do a showroom for one of these companies that sell the small, tiny houses there. So they could put it there and, make it as a showroom, I guess. Not a showroom, but
I think that's a great idea. Well, Humble Creek is right there in Dunrobin.
yeah.
Have you seen the Humble Creek stuff yet?
No.
I'm going to show you that. Hang on a second. So the reason I say an outdoor showroom, that's how cheap is that? You just have a gravel pad where they can outdoor showroom for bunkies, tiny homes, cabins, beds. That's a really good idea. I am giving you an A+ on your assignment today. I think that is really good, really good. Let me show you what I'm working on. I mean, I coach those guys, eh? Humble Creek, the Noble. I'll show you this. It's fantastic. I coach 4 tiny home builders, and these guys are actually based in Dunrobin, and they're building these. This is their model. This is their Rolls-Royce model. It's called the Noble. And you'll see it has a loft up here with windows, and it is a really spectacular unit. It's one of the best I've seen. So you'll get an idea of the level of quality. This thing is almost 500 square feet of living space.
Wow.
Wow. So this is the bathroom here on your left. This is the living area here and kitchen and work area. This is the master bedroom. You can see the kitchen is top end. And now look at the floor plan. It is fantastic. I mean, I had a little bit of a hand in this, so I'm biased, okay? But anyway, here's the main entrance door here. You come in here, here's your living area. There's a sofa bed here. There's a set of double doors here, which lead outside, so patio doors, or yeah, patio doors, I guess. Come in here, there's a Freed, I guess they can't spell either, fridge. Here's your work area, and lunch counter. There's your kitchen, stacked washer and dryer, little storage area here. The main bedroom is back here, and they've got a cheater ensuite. Ario, do you know what a cheater ensuite is?
No, but I'm
It's an
guessing it's
on-
the bathroom.
It's an ensuite that is double loaded. So this one is double loaded. So these are considered public areas. You can get into the bathroom here, but you can also, from the bedroom, you don't have to go into the public area if you have to take a shower or, you need to go to the bathroom or brush your teeth, right? So you can get to the bathroom from the bedroom, and you can get to the bathroom from, the kitchen and the living area. So you can sleep 2 people here on this fold out bed. You can sleep another 1 or 2 people, and then you go up these cubby stairs here. They're called cubby stairs, and here's your loft area where you can put a double bed and a single bed. You could sleep probably comfortably 5 people here, possibly 6. It is a fantastic design.
How much is that?
It depends on who you ask. If you ask Humble Creek, it's $225,000. If you ask Prof. Bruce, I can get it for you for $195.
Okay.
Wait, it gets better.
Oh,
Wait,
there's more.
Wait, there's more. And this is my ad. You guys are too young to remember. There was the Vegematic. It used to be late night TV commercials. Instead of getting 1, you get 2. Call now. Operators are standing by. I don't know if they still run stuff like that, but they did when I was your age. So it gets better. These nobles, I think we're 2 weeks away, maybe 3, from getting them approved as backyard coach houses in Ottawa.
Wow.
I know how much it costs to build a backyard coach house. How much do you think that bunkie cost? All in.
80.
Oh, that's a very good guess. Just under 90 grand.
Mm-hmm.
So that includes all the furniture and the fit up. And my wife is crazy. She buys all this really expensive stuff. But I love my wife. Don't get me wrong. But she knows how to spend money. Most women are good at that. Anyway, so it was about 88 or 89,000 last time I added it up. But if you think about it, if we rented it out for say $1,400 a month, I mean, I'm not going to rent it out, but if we did, that would be about $15,000 a year. Net operating income would be about 10. So 10,000 on a $90,000 investment is about an 11% return. So it's not fantastic, but it's not horrible. Mm-hmm. Right? If the 3 of us bought just a townhouse, we'd be lucky to make 6 or 7%. So we'll do okay on it. 10 or 11%, maybe 12 is actually pretty good. But for $195,000, you can roll a tiny house into your backyard, the backyard of any property you own, and I bought a couple from Humble Creek, and I really like them, and and they make money for us. Mm-hmm. And I think we're gonna Humble Creek will sell a ton of them.
Oh, well. So a few weeks away from coach house stage. That's amazing.
Well, we don't know yet. We have applied, or not we, but Humble Creek has applied to the city. The only difference is that you put it in the backyard. It has to be on a quote unquote permanent foundation. Mm-hmm. So what you do is you put it on screw piles, right?
Yeah.
Right. You understand, Ario, what screw piles are?
Not quite.
Armin, you would know.
I guess, I don't know, you just have to bolt it down to the ground, essentially. No wheels.
Well, not quite accurate. I'll show you one that I bought from Humble Creek. Just give me a second. I'll show you some pictures. What am I looking for? Oops. Yeah, I think this will show you. Sorry, guys. So this is not the Noble. This is a smaller version. This is another tiny home that Humble Creek builds. This one that I call the Woodland Studio. Just make it a little bigger. So you can see it's called the Woodland Studio. And you can see here's the trailer. And the trailer, there's wheels here, but screw piles are literally piles that you screw into the earth, okay? It's like you just screw them in. And you bring your trailer in, you bring your Woodland Studio in, you jack it up, and you put it on the screw piles, but the wheels are still there. And then you skirt it like that. You can see the skirt around it. So if you ever wanted to remove it from the site, if I ever wanted to move it, I just take the skirt off, I lower it from the screw piles back on the ground, and the wheels are still there, off you go.
Wow.
Okay. So it means that you could hire a contractor to stick build. I built one in Belleville in the backyard of one of my houses. I built a small 900 square foot, 2-bedroom coach house, $327,000. It took almost a year and a bit to get it done.
Holy, it's almost
Yeah.
like a new home.
It was, well, it is. So buying a Noble, which is really a home, and putting in your backyard for $195,000 to me makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right, you get an idea.
Wow.
All right, enough of that. Okay, we got enough time for a few more questions. I've got a few other things I'll show you, but you go first. Anything else to follow up on?
I don't have anything on my end.
Yeah. Well, here's something else that your brother asked, and maybe you did too. How do you write up a commercial lease? Right, that was on your agenda, Ario. All right, so I'll send you this as well. How do you do proper commercial leasing? Armin, almost no one, including huge developers, knows how to write a proper lease. It's incredible. People have been at this for a few hundred years, and commercial leasing is still back in the Stone Age. All right. So an offer to lease is something that you do before you do a formal lease. So an offer to lease is basically a summary of the terms and conditions, and then you turn it over to the lawyers to do a formal lease. The formal lease could be 60 pages long. An offer to lease could be 4, 5, or 6 pages, maybe 7 or 8 pages.
Okay.
So an offer to lease is like a deal points memo. I like the deal points memo. It's simple. It's only a few pages. It sets out most of the important stuff. In an offer to lease, and we're talking about commercial or industrial, you have a base rent, which is usually quoted in dollars per square foot per year. So let's say, for example, you guys have an industrial building and I'm renting 1,000 square feet of industrial space. Today, you probably in Ottawa quote me $16 per square foot per year, triple net. All right. So on 1,000 square feet means that I would pay you as my landlord $16 per square foot per year times 1,000 square feet. So I'd pay you 16 grand. So what is that? You know, $1,400 a month or something like that, plus HST. That is considered the base rent or the minimum rent. In addition to that, I would pay you your operating costs for that building, your property taxes. I would pay my own utilities. And as my landlord, you are entitled in your lease to add admin fees, property management fees, accounting fees, management fees, maintenance and repair. So if you come in and you have to fix my plumbing or you fix my light, it's not like residential. That's an additional cost. And do you remember what a percentage rent is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we get a revenue, I guess, revenue share agreement.
You get so if I'm running a restaurant or I'm running an industrial space and I have a retail component to it, like a showroom, you guys can ask for a percentage of my sales. Okay.
Right.
You could charge a marketing fee. What I do for a lot of the properties, commercial properties where I work, I would charge anywhere from a 2 to 3% marketing fee. So if say there's 100,000 square foot building, I would charge every tenant 2 or 3%, and that would go into a marketing budget. It would go to the landlord, but the landlord would then just turn around and spend that marketing the plaza, marketing the industrial complex, building the brand. All right. You can charge for parking. You can rent your signs. You don't have to give signs for free in commercial. You could charge for coaching if you wanted to coach your tenants. You can provide them with a tech package. A lot of the properties where I've been active, the landlord will provide internet and will provide other services, right? Tech services, and they'll make a little bit of money on it too. All right, so let's move on. Okay. Okay, so enough of that. So the other thing that typically you're offered to lease would cover would be there's a fit up period. Typically, if you rented me 1,000 square feet of industrial space, you might give me 30, 60, or 90 days to do whatever work I required before I would have to pay full rent. It's called a fit up period. You might give me, as my landlord, a fit up allowance. You might say, Bruce, you've rented 1,000 square feet. We're going to give you $15 a square foot or $15,000 as our contribution towards your fit up costs. A lot of landlords who are, short of cash now will say, well, Bruce, instead of giving you $15,000 of cash, we'll give you the equivalent in free rent. All right. Or rent reduction.
Sorry, could you repeat that part again? I didn't
Yeah,
quite get
sorry
that.
about that. We're at the end of 2 hours and it gets a little bit much. I know that, Ario. So let's say you gave me what's called a tenant inducement or a fit up allowance, same thing. And you said, look, Bruce, we'll, as my landlord, we're going to contribute $15 a square foot to your fit up, to your moving costs and whatever changes you
Okay.
have to make. So you're going to give me $15,000, all right, in cash. Generally, you would give me that money 46, and now it's 60 days, 61 days after the lien period is over, because you don't want to give me any money until you make sure I paid my contractor. So there's no liens on your building. So, but maybe you talk to your brother and you say, look, we really can't afford to give Bruce $15,000 in cash. What we'll do is we'll give him the equivalent in free rent. Okay. Maybe you have some meeting rooms that service the whole area. You sometimes you can charge for that. Maybe you have some outdoor space, some space that he or she might or I might enjoy. You could charge for that. I'll give you an example. One of my clients runs swim schools. And every year she runs a fair in the warm weather months in Ottawa in August outside in the parking lot, and she has to pay for that as well. Okay. So these are the kinds of things that typically you would consider when you're doing a lease. And again, you have to remember that in commercial leasing, industrial leasing, like any sort of form of entrepreneurship, there are no rules. You make your own. So if you want to charge somebody a percentage rent, you want to charge them for outdoor space, you want to charge them for signage, you want any of these kinds of, things, you have to know about this and then you have to ask. Maybe in the negotiation, you don't get everything you want as a landlord, but you should try. There are two more things that you have to know about commercial leasing and industrial leasing. that are really important. Most landlords, certainly the big landlords, charge you for utilities at a retail price, but they buy their power at a wholesale price. So let's say you two guys owned a 100,000 square foot industrial building, and you buy power from Ontario Hydro or Auto Hydro, and you pay this much per kilowatt hour. But I'm renting 1,000 square feet from you, and if I contracted with Ontario Hydro for a much smaller amount of power, I would pay a higher per kilowatt hour rate. So you as the landlord have the right, if you write your leases correctly, to charge me the retail price.
Wow.
And you make the difference.
If you have, let's say, solar panels and you make your own electricity, can you also sell that at the retail rate?
100% you do. In fact, landlords are doing that now, especially where they have what's called reverse metering, where when you're producing power that isn't needed, you can sell it back to the, or feed it back to the, run your meter backwards, you feed it back to the system.
Wow.
So
how do you?
That's commercial only though, not residential, right?
I don't think they allow it in residential, but in
Yeah,
commercial,
okay,
I think
that
they
makes
do,
sense.
commercial and industrial. And many of my clients who own huge industrial buildings, especially in Toronto, where they have, in Ottawa, 100,000 square foot industrial building is considered quite big. In Toronto, it's invisibly small. Like we're talking, 1 and 2 and 3 million square feet of industrial space. These are huge buildings. I've got a group in Collingwood that I coach. A small project for them would be 1.5 million square feet of industrial space.
Wow.
Toronto is just unimaginably bigger than Ottawa. They have real money there. So they have, Ario, they have, these flat roofs that go on for acres and acres, and they put solar panels up there, and they definitely retail it. So another aspect of commercial leasing, Ario and Armin, is retailing your utilities, right? Retailing your water, retailing your power, right? And gas as well. You buy it at a wholesale price and you sell it to your tenants at a higher price. That's a very big profit maker for the bigger landlords. The other thing,
Sorry, is this wholesale pricing like the bill they send you, or do you actually negotiate a rate with Hydro for a wholesale?
well, I mean, it depends on the amount of power. I mean, big landlords like Canderel and Colonnade Bridgeport, they negotiate with directly. I have a big client actually in Quebec that grows cannabis indoors, and I just couldn't believe it. They negotiated with Hydro Quebec, and they got a 15-year supply agreement with Hydro Quebec at, I think 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour. Just to give you a comparison, in Ontario, the typical power rates for you and me are probably 18 cents a kilowatt hour.
Wow.
They are growing cannabis. I mean, now their plant is about 1.5 million square feet. So they have this huge warehouse where they grow cannabis, and they're buying the power from Hydro Quebec at 2.5 cents Canadian. That is the cheapest power, I think, anywhere in the world today. You cannot get cheaper power in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia has lots of oil to burn, but I'm sure the power rates there are higher. I think.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Is they don't have any other option. So why would Hydro Quebec give them such a discount if they're
That's a great question. The reason for that is not really a discount. Hydro Quebec produces power from Churchill Falls, the hydropower in Churchill. Their cost for producing that power for the next 40 years is 1.5 cents a kilowatt hour. That's their cost. So when they sell it to my client for 2.5 cents, they're still making a decent profit margin. Hydro Quebec is. Now, you and I can't buy it from Hydro Quebec for 2.5 cents because we don't have 1.5 million square foot weed factory. But yes, you can negotiate with these people, and you would not get 2.5 cents in Ontario. I don't care how much, but you might get, say, 7.5 or 8.5 cents in Ontario when the typical retail customer is paying 18 cents. So if you think about it, if you have a big enough portfolio, industrial or commercial, and you're buying power for 7 or 8 cents and you're selling it for 18 cents, it's a big profit margin.
Wow. Okay.
The other thing to remember is this. This is a little bit more complicated. So this will be the last thing we deal with today because I think Ario's getting sick of me.
That's not the case, but anyway,
Well, it's
go ahead.
what time is it there? It must be quite late.
It's 7 almost, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so you go for dinner. So one last thing to remember in commercial leasing and industrial leasing. If you know what you're doing in terms of writing these leases, and if you ever do a lease, you know, you come back to me because I've done hundreds of them and maybe even thousands, but certainly hundreds. And I know how to make money for landlords. If I was representing a tenant, you know, it would be quite different. I would say, well, no, we're not paying that. Or, oh, no, we're not paying that. We're paying the wholesale price, not the retail price. But representing you guys, that's different, right? So the other thing that you have to know is that there's a difference between the demised premises and the demised premises plus common area. So I'll just draw a picture for you guys so you can understand what I'm getting at. So let's say you had an office building and that's the floor plan there. And there's the front door, there's the corridor, and here are the elevators, okay?
Mhm.
This is a common area. These are demised premises, okay? So Ariel, there's a difference between the demised area and the gross area. And when you're writing a lease, you have to know that there's the demised premises and then there's the demised premises and common area, and they're not the same. If you're the landlord, you want to make sure that your tenants are paying for everything, including the common areas, because they use the common areas. So let me give you an example. The very first office building I built had 27% of the building as common area. It was very inefficient. It had a huge atrium. It had feature stairs. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I was in my 20s and I didn't have a good coach. I didn't have anybody to help me. So I built this beautiful building. And after I built it, I realized I had 27% of that floor area was non-revenue producing. So what I did was when I rented to a tenant, I would say, look, your premises, Ario and Armin, are 1,000 square feet, but I'm going to gross it up by 27%. So you're going to pay your base rent and your operating costs on 1,270 square feet, even though your actual demised premises are only 1,000. And my tenants would say, what the hell? Why would I do that? Because you're using the common area along with everyone else. But there was so much pushback in the market. This won't surprise Armin. There was so much pushback in the marketplace by the tenants that I had to arbitrarily limit the common area charge to just 14.5%. So it meant me as the landlord was paying all the rest of the common area costs. So that building was not very successful as a financial investment. The next building I built was called the Royal Bank Pavilion. It had the Royal Bank at grade, and then it was 5 or 6 stories above that. And it had a grand total of 11% common area. So I went from 27% to 11%. And I had no problem at all in making sure that my tenants paid for the entire common area. And that building was much more successful financially, right? So, you know, you would think that, Armin, you would think that the commercial guys who have been doing this for a few hundred years would know all of this stuff, but they really don't. And many of the leases that landlords are doing today are, you know, miss out on a lot of this stuff. And as a result, many of our large development companies are not doing very well. You know, pension funds don't really care if they're, well, they care, but they don't care that much if their returns are 4.5% or 3.5% cap rate, because their cost of funds is still very low. But for people like us who are paying, you know, interest rates today at 5, 6, or 7%, you know, having a building that has a 4% cap rate, if you're paying 6 or 7% interest, is a recipe for disaster. So what you have to do is you have to introduce into your leases things like I've been talking about for the last 15 or 20 minutes that help you raise your cap rate, hopefully to 7, 8, 9, or 10%. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, so there's a lot of flexibility in commercial, yeah.
There is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, this recorded, it'll download, I'll put it on YouTube for the three of us. And Armin, I will reach out to Dr. Lee and see if we can maybe find out if he'll sell us or sell you guys those properties. I mean, you don't have to buy them. If the land wasn't too expensive and it made sense, like you just added, in my opinion, I certainly won't mention this to the doctor. It's just because these are your ideas, but the ideas that you just came up with for something very simple commercially that might allow you to build the residential property, that is a really good idea. And that's your idea, Armin. I'll treat it confidential.
Awesome. Yeah,
Right.
sure.
So I'll reach out to him. And now, Ario, because I know you're diligent about this, I want a mid-month report from you 2 weeks from now, and keep going. You're doing really good work on the agenda. When are you coming back to Canada?
7th, May 7th.
Okay, well, travel safe.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Perfect. Thanks. Have a good one.
You too.